Hi there, welcome back to Shoe Guru Shoe Review. Today I am going to be mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be talking about a running shoe. This is something that I personally have used an older version of, and while I will tell you it doesn't get a lot of brownie points on the aesthetics category, it should get every ounce of respect in terms of comfort and build quality and what it can do for a person's foot. So without further ado, let's discuss it. It is from Hoka. I'm going to get this right out of the way. A lot of people will read the box, they'll see, oh, it's 1 1. Nope, not true. It is Hoka ONE ONE. This brand, from everything that I can tell, that a lot of their naming, it all has to do with flight of some sort. Hoka ONE ONE comes from the native New Zealand language, as I understand it, and loosely translates to fly over Earth. Why they kind of went with this theme, I don't know. Probably because they believe that the shoes, and I think they're right on the money here, the shoes kind of help you just glide very comfortably while you're running. These are ultra marathon running shoes. Anytime you look at one of their products, I mean, they're going to have some that step outside of that, but the bulk of their product line is going to be catering to ultra marathon running. It's a trickle-down effect, though, so if you work in a warehouse or a nurse or you want to do just light running, these are products that are going to be great for you too, but they are engineered and capable of supporting and giving comfort for a 12.25 marathon, or 12.25 mile marathon. But as I mentioned, aesthetically, they're not exactly the greatest looking shoe. They look kind of beefy. This is a very, very stark change in directions from the minimalist shoes you probably saw 3-4 years ago being popular. It is what I would call a Maximus shoe. There's a couple other products out on the market right now that are very similar to this. Real recently, New Balance came out with a New Balance More. It's their kind of attempt to combat Hoka. There's another brand called Gravity Defier. I've never worked with the product, but apparently they're even bigger than these. But I think Hoka is the best out of the bunch. I've tried the New Balance, and I think it's a great shoe. I think the Hoka's better. Why I think it's better. So the outsole of this shoe, it is a very, very comfortable foam. This particular one is called the Gaviota, Spanish for seagull, in case anybody's curious where they get Gaviota from. But this one is designed for pronation. So pronation is if your feet tend to tilt in or if your ankles tend to bevel in, you're a pronator. This shoe, you see this gray right through here, it's going to wrap around the whole inside of the shoe. This gray is a denser foam than the white. That means that you will not be able to compress it as easily. Keeping in mind that gravity is lazy, it's going to take the path of least resistance, and you'll naturally pivot to the outside corner of the shoe, thus eliminating your pronation. If you really pronate, if you're a hyperpronator, this may not be the right shoe for you. If that's the case, you need to look at something like the New Balance 1340 or the Brooks Beast, something that really has got the structure behind it. But otherwise, if you're a light pronator, flat-footed, etc., these are great. The soft foam, it is pretty well exposed on the bottom. I was a little concerned that it would wear down too quickly when I started running these. However, there is hardened rubber on the outsole, and it seems to do a really good job of holding up. The geometry of the shoe does kind of have a little bit of a curvature to it. They call it a meta rocker. This can be a little bit of a weird feeling when you're trying it for the first time, because you'll feel like you're tipping back and then rolling forward. And so just standing in these, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not till you're up and moving. But I find that about 5 minutes worth of wearing it and you're pretty accustomed to it. But the reason the geometry works that way is so, especially if you're a heel striker, you can hit the ground and then casually roll into the foot. And I think, it's worth noting, I used to run in the Brooks Ghost, which is a pretty neutral shoe for all accounts. And I always felt fatigue develop in the front of my foot because I never had enough padding. This one has continual padding. I also felt that in my Brooks I had to bend my toes a lot more, and I was pushing off at the tips of my toes, where this I feel like you're pressing on the front of your foot. So you're positioned in a way where you're going to have a more powerful push. by no means am I a professional runner, nor do I run very much at all. I'm just giving you the insight that I've had from running in these as well as other shoes. Has a wider toe box, so if you need a little extra width, that's a really good perk for you. It gives you the ability, even if you don't need a wide shoe, to spread your toes out. It's called splaying. A lot of people are familiar with Ultra for being that way, and they like that. I will recommend, if you like extra width and or need extra width, when you look at Hoka's in their extra wide, it is a 2E width shoe for men and it's a D width for women, but the frame of the shoe, so the bottom part where you sit, is the same width as the standard. Okay, so men's standard width is a D and their wide's a 2E. Well, the 2E frame is still a D width. What they've done on their wide widths is they will add extra material to the top of the shoe so you have more flexibility there. So if you have like a bunion or just a wider foot, you can have more space there. You can probably tell there's this black line right through here. This is, I can say this, they can't, it's their guide rail. Legally they can't because Brooks beat them to the trademark office, I guess. But it is effectively designed to keep you from being able to roll your foot. The whole shape of this particular shoe will do that though. If I hold it like this, you can clearly see the sole of the shoe is wider than where your foot sits. So it has a positive grade to the outside, making it pretty hard for you to roll your foot, giving you a very stable footing. This particular one, if I remember correctly, it's a 5mm drop in the heel. A lot of people have bought into the hype of the zero drop. I'm not one of them. I've run in zero drop shoes. I personally don't like it. I think it's important to understand that each particular product is designed for a particular person, and you need to determine which product and person, match up. So as I'm going through this, you may not be the right person to run in this. You may be better off with the Bondi, their neutral stance shoe that's very similar to this, or maybe one of their other products, or maybe even a different brand altogether. But it's a 5mm drop, if I remember correctly. So that means from the heel to the toe, it descends at a degree of 5mm from the heel to the toe. It's got a pretty low cut here, so your ankles shouldn't feel restricted. I do like that the back of the shoe comes up a lot higher on this, and the heel is pinched, so your heel shouldn't slip out of this too much. If you do experience that, you need to either A, reevaluate the size of your shoe, or B, you need to look at alternative lacing methods like a runner's lace. Too commonly do I get people who think a shoe is bad because the heel of the shoe wore out too fast, when in fact they either had terrible fitting shoes or they just laced it improperly. So please take that into consideration when you're buying this. In terms of the insole on this shoe, it's a standard athletic shoe insole. It's a lightweight foam. It's the same thing you're going to find in Brooks, Asics, New Balance, Saucony, Mizuno, Ultra, whatever. It's something that you're probably going to want to replace at some time. So if you, or you may not, it just depends on the person. But if you do want to replace it, just keep in mind that will affect your fit. Maybe go up a half size to accommodate the extra insole in there. It's a very breathable shoe. It's a very lightweight shoe. A lot of times when people come into my store and they pick this up, they think it's going to be a lot heavier than it is. Honestly, it probably weighs 15 ounces on a bad day if we're looking at it like a size 14 2E width. It's a very lightweight mesh upper. It's constructed very well. I was really shocked. Typically with running shoes, you're going to get somewhere between 350 and 400-ish miles. I'm sure mine has broken down significantly, but I've definitely crossed the 1,000 mark. It looks like it, but I think because you have so much mass beneath your foot here, you have the ability to wear in the shoe a lot longer, and then you won't experience it not giving you cushion, as quickly as maybe some other shoes. And that's always been my problem with minimalist shoes, is you can just feel everything beneath the ground and the cushion wears out so fast. This one, I mean, it's like an amorphous blob. You can just roll over things and you won't even feel it. In our store, we do what we call a spike test, where we actually have our customers walk over a sharp object that simulates a rock, and they don't even feel it. who's this shoe good for? Again, I mentioned it was made for ultramarathon runners, but I sell more of these to nurses and people who work in warehouses. You know, individuals who are on their feet all day. You just got to get past the looks department on this guy. This is pretty tame in terms of their colors. Hoka, if you are watching, I hope that you continue to make some neutral colors like this, because it's definitely a nice perk. But absolutely, I think it's worth trying. A lot of people who are converting over to this brand, they've tried Ultra, they've tried Brooks, they've tried Asics, they've tried Mizuno and Saucony, and they're apprehensive about trying this one because they feel as though this brand isn't going to give them what they think they need out of a shoe. I think when you find the right Hoka product for you, you'll be very convinced why this one is worth the money. Doesn't mean you may not always like how it looks, but you definitely will appreciate how it feels. And this is one of those rare opportunities where I talk about something personal. You know, my mother, she wears Brooks predominantly for most of her career. She switched over to Hoka and she's very impressed. In fact, she actually texted me a week later after buying a pair and asked me to get her a second pair of the exact same shoe because she liked it that much, and not usually how she is about footwear. So that should tell you something. This particular product, priced at $150, they will have some other products below that, and they're going to have some above that. I think if you're shopping for their shoes, their Gaviota, their Bondi, and the Clifton, those are the three big ones. Some people really like the Arahi. I'm not as sold on that one. I think if you're looking at the Arahi, you need to go with this one. What differentiates those products, both the Clifton and the Bondi, are neutral stance, meaning they have no dense material on the inside of the shoe to keep you from pronating. Keep in mind they are still somewhat of a stability shoe, so you will be better off in that than some alternatives. And then you've got this guy and the Arahi, which are their stability models. What really sets them apart, though, is because they're kind of like brother and sister. So like the Clifton and the Arahi sit side by side, and the Bondi and this sit side by side. The Clifton and the Arahi, they use 2 layers of foam. The Bondi and the Gaviota we have here, they use a single layer of foam. The single layer of foam is a much more plush cushion. The dual density foam, or 2-layer foams, it's going to be a plush cushion and then a firmer one beneath it in the same space, so it's not nearly as cushioned. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would I rate this? Yeah, I'll give it a 4.5. I think running shoes are one of those things, you're never going to have a perfect running shoe. There's always going to be something to gripe about. My gripe on this, I hate to say it, it is a looks thing for me. You know, I'm a skinny guy, so when I put this shoe on, it's like toothpicks and marshmallows. I wish that the mesh uppers on these were made a little bit more durable. It doesn't matter what brand of shoe it is. If it's a lightweight mesh, at some point you're going to poke your toe through it. It's unfortunate because when you're paying $150, you hate to have a shoe for 3 months and then have a hole in there. Fortunately, I have not experienced that. Little add-on thing that I will recommend, a product that I'm very fond of, Swiftwick socks. If you've never tried these, they're compression socks. So if you're going to be using this for running, or if you're on your feet all day, I'm telling you, try these. I know everybody's really hyped on Stance and Smartwols and other brands, but if you've never tried these, you got to. It's one of the few products I think is actually worth its weight in gold, because it delivers exactly what it promises. It says it's going to be the best sock, and it will be. When I go running in my shoes, yeah, absolutely, I am wearing a pair of Swiftwicks. It's a compression sock, so it compresses the capillaries in the top of your foot, promoting a little higher blood pressure so you don't develop swelling. And then it also is moisture wicking. So the combination of this being a very breathable shoe, plus a sock that's allowing moisture to escape, this having a little bit more space in the front, plus it being a compression sock and my foot not filling out the shoe, it's just a very healthy combination. So if you've tried Hoka's before, if you've tried the Gaviota in particular, and you have any feedback or questions and such, please feel free to put them down below and let me know, and let others know. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you tune in again.